Hi, welcome to Warrior Stories. I believe that the most powerful tool that human beings learn from are stories. And I know for me personally, I absolutely love hearing the stories from other people of how they were able to overcome obstacles in their life and triumph over trauma and, are now living the most successful, their best lives as they define it. And so much of what we see on social media these days are success stories, right? Which is amazing, but it's scaled to such a huge level. We see, tens of thousands of followers, hundreds of millions of dollars, all of these successful companies, but rarely do we really get an inside look at how people start. So that's why I'm bringing you Warrior Stories, so we can feel connected to each other, understanding that everybody starts somewhere, and while all of our stories are all very different, we certainly have some similarities along the way. So Warrior Stories today, episode 2, is with my dear friend Cara Bradley, and I'm so excited to have her here. So Cara is the amazing owner of Verge Yoga, which she started how many years ago?
15.
Wow, 15 years ago. And now not only does she have Verge Yoga, but she is a national motivational speaker where she speaks throughout the country, taking her inspiration and motivation everywhere. And she specifically speaks about flow, which is amazing. And I know a little bit about flow, but when I hear Cara speak about it, I am intrigued and sucked in. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about flow. And
Flow.
Yes.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Flow is an optimal state. It's optimal states, actually. And you've all experienced flow. You probably experienced flow yesterday. Flow is an optimal state of consciousness. It's an optimal state where we feel our best and we perform our best. I like to think about flow as the times when we feel most alive, when we come alive, when we feel awake and engaged. It can be, when you're playing with your dog, you can be in flow. You can be in flow when you're cooking. You can be in flow when you're writing an email or proposal or presenting. You can be in flow in so many ways. And a lot of people will say, well, how is that different from being present? Well, it's really not. When we're present, we are fully right there with what we're doing. And when we are present, we do our best and we also feel our best. So flow states, there's just a range. It could be a micro flow state, which are like small states, like not small states, but less intense states. Like when you're watching a sunset or you're gazing in somebody's eyes, you just kind of lock into the present moment. And then there could be the really intense flow states or the macro flow states, like when you're skiing down a mountain or you're performing in front of a crowd, or you're just having one of those really peak moments. So I love talking to people about flow because we're doing it all the time.
Yeah.
And what I like to say is we can train to make our optimal states our default states so that we're accessing flow more often.
That's awesome. I love hearing you talk about flow, and because it does make you become more present. And I mean, I just feel like I'm in flow right now, sitting here next to you,
Exactly.
hearing you talk about it.
Exactly.
Being present and listening to it. So I love hearing you talk about it. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions. And, I think that my goal is to hopefully have the audience feel more connected to you.
Sure.
Because, again, I before I met Cara, I only knew Cara as, this owner of Verge Yoga, which is a local, very successful yoga studio here. And as a successful businesswoman, I knew of her, but I didn't know her. And I was very intimidated by her success and everything that she had. I would never have approached her because it's just sort of how I was. And then we collaborated on some work together, and I got to truly meet her and work closely with her. And I realized how amazing she is, how down to earth she is, but also all of the trials and everything she had to go through, obstacles to get where she is today. So again, everybody starts somewhere, right? Okay, so with that being said, the first question I'm going to ask you is, if there's a word or phrase that best describes you, what would it be?
Oh, I like this question because I just took this great test online called the Character
awesome.
Strengths.
Oh, okay.
It's called the VIA test. It's really cool because you really get to understand your top 5 character strengths.
Yeah.
And my top character strength, I smiled as soon as I read it because it really does describe me, is zest.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm zesty.
You are zesty. You are a zesty Italian girl. That is for sure. I love that. That's awesome. Okay. Zest. I see that. Okay. So what are you most proud of?
Oh, my daughters.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
You have
The
two.
most successful thing I've ever done. Don't make me cry.
Oh, no, you can cry.
My
It was
daughters
amazing.
are in their mid-20s, and they're just really stellar human beings, kind people, and interested and curious. I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah. So with that being said, your daughters, like you said, they're in their mid-20s. So you're at a different point. They're adults. Growing up, when they were little girls and teenagers, were you building your business then? Where were you at? What point were you at in your life as far as you, Cara Bradley, in your career?
It's a great question. So I started my yoga center, Verge, when my girls were in middle school.
Okay.
And it was really hard.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to look back, 15 years later, now it's 15 years later, and think, damn, I wish I would have spent more time with them and less time on my business. I was really aware of that back then.
Okay.
So the business grew very organically. It was a good time to start a yoga business. So I have to say timing is everything in many ways. So the business just grew. I mean, we were growing 30% a year. We had a very good model. But I also didn't expand the business the way I could have.
Right.
Because I wanted to be available for my kids.
Okay.
And many people said, you should franchise, you should open multiple studios. And I kept thinking, why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, the business is doing well. We're growing organically. It's manageable. So I never, ever, ever, ever regret that. Because, I mean, really, what would that have gotten me? Like a nicer car, right? Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
So you consciously made that decision. And that was a choice.
Yes.
That was a choice. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question is, what is the biggest obstacle that you had to overcome, and how were you able to overcome it?
In business or in life? Or
It could be either.
Okay.
Whatever comes to mind first.
I'm going to say in business,
Okay.
my biggest obstacle was not having leadership training. I really only worked for somebody else a few years when I was in New York City working for an investment bank. I worked there for a few years, started my MBA, quit my MBA. I wasn't into it. So I really have only been in the corporate world for maybe 3 or 4 years before I started my first business, which was different than this business. So not having leadership skills and training, and then having to manage up to 40 employees, 30 yoga teachers. At one point we had more than 30 yoga teachers and staff. I made every mistake in the book. I screwed up. I said things I shouldn't have. I did things I shouldn't have done. And it cost me. It cost me a lot just emotionally. It's very, very challenging to lead people, especially in a business like yoga. It's very personal for people, and it has a spiritual component.
Yes.
So I would say that was my biggest obstacle. I screwed up so many times. I have teachers littered all over the main line, wanting to wring my neck. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. Yeah. So I've gotten a lot better.
You've gotten better. Yeah. Because you learn from your mistakes, right?
Yep.
Which actually feeds into my next question, which is sort of similar, but what do you feel is your favorite failure? Because we all do have obstacles, and we all do make mistakes and fail, and sometimes at the time we don't realize that this failure is probably one of the best things that may have happened to us. But do you have a favorite failure? And if so, what is it?
That's a good question. I have a lot of failures. I'm like, okay.
So just pick one.
Which failure?
That's
do I
great.
pick?
That's why you're successful, because you have to fail in order to
gosh.
succeed. That's unfortunately, once you fail, you can't just stop, right?
No.
You can't just give up. So you need to keep picking yourself back up and have multiple failures before you can succeed. And that's why you're successful.
Well, I often say to people when I'm talking to people about leadership or entrepreneurship is that if I could line my powder room when I had a powder room. I don't have a powder room anymore. With business cards of mine from failed businesses.
Okay.
I just failed so many times
Yeah.
in businesses. But one of my greatest failure stories is one of my first real businesses where I raised money and had like a real products and selling across the country was a line of figure skating apparel.
Yes.
Called Blade
I remember you
Skatewear.
telling me about that, which is awesome.
It was awesome. I was in New York City. I mean, I had a lot of very top skaters wearing my stuff. I mean, I did everything right in certain ways, but I wasn't really careful on the manufacturing of a specific line.
Okay.
And so I didn't know this at the time, but the Lycra had just started coming out, and the thread that was used to sew the Lycra wasn't the right thread, and so the unitards would pull apart. Now, I didn't know this until I had the entire New York, I forget what they were called.
Oh, boy.
It was like the New York skating troupe, which consisted of professional skaters wearing my unitards. Get this, okay. The opening tree lighting ceremony at Rockefeller Center on live TV. Okay, there's like 25 skaters wearing my black unitards, and the seams start pulling and popping.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So
That's a big one on live TV.
So it wasn't like Janet Jackson.
Right. No, but that's pretty big.
But they came off and they were like, our outfits are falling apart.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my business didn't last much longer after
Okay, next business card.
Next card.
Oh my gosh, I love it. But again, it's what got you to where you are today.
It did.
Okay, so what advice would Cara Bradley now give Cara Bradley 10 years ago?
Oh God,
I know.
So much advice. Oh,
it's a good one, right?
It's a really good one. All right, I've got a couple of things. First, know your message.
Yeah.
Like, know what this is all about. Get really specific on what you're doing and why. Right? I know Crissy's big on why.
Know your why. Live your why.
Yes.
Yes, but you have to really think about and go deep to find it.
Yeah, and I would say this is like for my 25-year-old self.
Yes.
Because I started getting this, I've been getting this for about 15 years. So really know why. Why are you doing it? You don't want to start a business. There's the old, a lot of people say, I really want to own a bed and breakfast. Well, why? Why do you want to own a bed and breakfast?
Yeah.
Because you're going to work your ass off. You're going to work your ass off 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So know why. You know, if you want to live in a pretty place, then just go move to a pretty place, and forget about the bed and breakfast. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is to really understand how to work with people.
Okay.
To really take the time to, when you're managing people or managing clients, to really get to know them, and so that you can really connect with them. And it avoids a lot of messiness when we're able to connect and be really honest.
Yeah.
Have those hard conversations. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Be willing to have the hard conversations. So I'm going to throw some quotes out for you.
Okay. Yeah, I love it.
Because these
love
two
quotes.
quotes
Let's do it.
have really been impactful for me.
Okay.
The first one's Tim Ferriss.
Oh, I love Tim Ferriss.
And he says, you're really only going to be as successful as the hard conversations you're willing to have.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I don't want to have that hard conversation.
Absolutely.
I want to make it go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
easier not to, right? It's easier to avoid it. But just like everything else in life, you have to do the hard work.
Absolutely.
The hard conversations are part of it.
The other one, I know you love this woman, Brene Brown.
Yeah, I love Brene.
She said in her last book on leadership, Dare to Lead.
Okay.
Okay, I have to get this right. quiet isn't kind, and kind isn't always quiet.
Yeah. I
So
love that.
can we be willing to tell people the truth? Because it's only going to help them in the long run. And the thing about being honest and being truthful is it cuts through everything.
Yeah.
And once it's out, it's just, if it's true, it just is. It keeps things from getting very messy.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that. And it also made me think of, and I'm probably going to mess up this quote, but when you said Tim Ferriss and talking about getting clear, I believe it was him, but it was, the quote is something like, the universe rewards or ignores the vague wish and rewards the specific ask.
Good.
Again, just speaking about getting very clear on what it is your goals are, what your why is, why you want what you want, how you're going to get what you want, and taking action towards that, but really knowing what it is, because just saying, oh yeah, I'd like a vacation home, well, that's not going to get you what you want.
Right.
Kind of thing. Okay. So is there, and I love this for you because I'm sure you have a bunch of these, but is there one habit or skill or routine that you've developed in the last year?
Oh.
Yeah, because I know you're constantly developing, but that you developed in the last year that you feel has really impacted your life in a significant way. It's like a habit, a skill, or a routine.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I mean, I'm always learning.
I know.
I'm just always trying new stuff out. All right, I'm just going to throw out one thing,
Okay.
which is something I just talked about on my podcast.
Great.
Called the Pomodoro Technique.
Okay.
The Pomodoro Technique is a way of, it's actually a flow trigger. So
Okay.
it helps you
I love
to
this.
access flow and to build focus and concentration. So flow follows focus, my friend Stephen Kotler always says.
Okay.
And what that means is that when we're able to focus in for a certain period of time, we're going to be in this optimal state of flow. We're going to be there fully engaged, fully aware. And what happens when we are in flow, especially if we're working on some kind of task-oriented, mental, creative thing, we access so much more information. We just become better.
Okay.
Right? So the Pomodoro Technique is a way of holding your attention for 25 minutes. And I love it because I'm Italian and Pomodoro means tomato. So it's really the tomato technique. And if
I
you go
love it.
online and just Google Pomodoro Technique or tomato technique, you'll find it.
Okay.
So 25 minutes on.
Okay.
You pick a task, like this morning, for instance. I had 3 tasks and I assigned each task 1 Pomodoro.
Okay.
Which means
I love that.
25 minutes.
Yeah.
25 minutes on, 5 minutes break. You're back at it.
That's
And there's
great.
apps, of course.
Yeah.
Right? So here's the thing. When you're in your 25 minutes, you ain't doing nothing else.
You are laser focused.
You are. There is
Okay.
no texting. There's no looking at the phone. There's no going to the bathroom. There's nothing. You are in it, all in for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Then when the timer goes, you take a break.
Okay.
You come back in. You can stay with the same task, and then after 4 tomatoes, then you take like a 20-minute break.
Okay.
And it really helps. It's mental strength training. It's like going to the gym
Love that.
for your brain.
I love that because I really think, I know for me personally, I do a lot of work from home. There's a lot of just sitting down and grinding and churning out some, creative writing and that sort of thing. And I feel like it's hard with all of the distractions of today, being your phone, your computer, your email, whatever it may be, social media popping up. And I work from home, so then I have the laundry and the refrigerator. What am I going to cook for dinner tonight? And all of these things that I do try to stay focused, but I love that technique. I wasn't aware of it, and that's something new that I just learned today, and I'm going to use it.
Cool.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so my last question for Cara is, what is the best piece of advice that you've been given?
Oh, man.
I know. I'm sure you've gotten a lot of amazing advice along the way. But what is one that comes to mind as something that you constantly go back to or think about?
It is really, it probably, I'm just going to talk about business advice because I can go, personal, and I could say both, but
You can say both,
but
sure.
from a business standpoint, it was my dad.
Yeah.
Right, my dad, who was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cry.
I might cry.
We
especially
both lost our dad
yes,
recently.
Yes,
So,
very close together, and we were spending a lot of time together. We were working on a project together during these times, and it was hard.
Yeah,
but we had each other.
we did.
It was
We
great.
did.
So
And
what
so
piece
he
of
was an
advice did Daddy
entrepreneur,
give you?
and he said to me when I had started that skating business, he said, just recognize that every day there will be a problem. Every single day you're going to face some problem. So when it happens, just greet it.
Yeah.
And say, all right, here's today's problem. And you just recognize that that's just part of running a business. There's gonna be stuff. And so that, I always remembered that. So it didn't
That is
trip me up too
an
badly.
amazing piece of advice.
Yeah.
Because again, it's all perspective.
Yeah.
Right? If you're anticipating the problem every day,
That's it.
it's a lot easier to handle.
Right.
Oh, he gave you a great gift in that
Yeah,
advice.
he did.
Sure did.
He did.
Well, thank you so much for doing this today. It was so fun. And you can follow Cara Bradley's podcast. Is it On the Verge still?
On the Verge.
Yeah, so On the Verge is her podcast. She's got amazing podcasts, so you can follow her. And also on social media.
Yep.
At Cara Bradley.
Yeah, pretty much. Cara Bradley, Cara M. Bradley on Instagram.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then my website.
And of course, Cara Bradley's website.
Yep.
And, hopefully if you could catch her at one of her local speaking events, because she is amazing to watch. And believe me, when you see her, you will be in flow. That is for sure. Thank you so much.